Alright, it is time for the recent release roundup for the month of May. So if you're new here, this is a series of videos I do where I talk about a handful of books, usually adult SFF, although this month we got some horror and we have some romance in the 10 books that I have selected. And I look for reviews and I basically compile and aggregate what are people vibing or feeling towards these books. I list all of those reviews and content creators down below. I have a Goodreads shelf with all these books that you can check out, and a link to the playlist for previous videos in this series. So that is all in the description. There will be timestamps. Hop around as you see fit, and I typically go from books with the most ratings to the least, and I alternate back and forth because I also think this is a great way to hear about books that people aren't talking about but have had, some pretty good reception. And what's funny is that this first one we're going to talk about had many people concerned on my Goodreads page, because for me to make that Goodreads playlist, I have to say want to read. Whether I want to read the book or not, for some reason when I was trying to get that bookshelf thing to work, it had to be want to read. So I did it. It didn't really bother me because I don't use Goodreads that way, but more than one person expressed concern. And that's for the Book of Night by Holly Black. So I have no plans on reading this book, especially after reviews. But even before that, I think some of the books that I tried by her back in my young adult days just weren't vibing with me, and I never had any interest in The Cruel Prince. I hadn't read her middle grade series growing up, and just the tropes of this I didn't think vibed with me. So I'm not going to read this book. And reviews seem to make me feel very good about my decision. Because on average, I do have one video where I found a 4.5 star to 5-star review, and that's the Rumi Digest. They have NetGalley vlogs they do each month. I'll have that link down below. If you want a positive rave review, that's the one I found. The rest, there's no huge negative rant reviews. There's just a whole lot of meh disappointment energy out there. There's a whole lot of this book did not deliver. I think Jess Owens in her wrap-up said this book gave 0 or something like that. I don't know. It seems like this book was sold with the premise that it would be vibes, and there were no vibes. There's no atmosphere, and that depending on what you want from world building, some people thought the world building was more developed than others. So reviews that I have, besides Jess Owens' wrap-ups and the Rumi Digest, we have Kristen is Fully Booked, had a very solid review. Same with Miss WOC Reader, who did read it because she likes the middle grade series she did. And I also want to point out, most of these reviewers I'm mentioning do say in their reviews that they love the Cruel Prince series. That's a trilogy they enjoyed. They were excited to pick this up. And I think the Rumi Digest, she likes the Cruel Prince and liked the Book of Night. But a lot of the people I've been seeing were disappointed with the expectations of, I think, the angst and vibes and darkness that they associate with Cruel Prince that were not coming out in Book of Night, which is a shadow magic adult fantasy. So I could see the disappointment. But we also have fun fantasy books and Bookshanks. So I have all these reviews down below. They all have different points that they bring to the table about how this missed their expectations. I will say the people who had a 3.5 to 4-star time, who tended to have less negative things to say, were less disappointed, did actually connect to our main character, who is apparently a con artist, but there is no con artist-y happening here. This seems more like it's a mystery novel, where we are just following the curiosities of our main character, and there is shadow magic. And the shadow magic seems like it could be interesting, but if you like your magic to be explained, is not explained to a degree that you would expect a hard magic system. I don't know if it has any inconsistencies, but in general, I don't think you get to learn about it a lot. So maybe that's where most of the vibes are. So yeah, this is a pass for me. Also, I could not get a clear idea from any of the reviewers if this is a first in a series, if it's a standalone. It doesn't seem like it has a huge cliffhanger. And so, yeah, this seems like it's going to be an average fantasy release. It has a very low rating on Goodreads right now. But guarantee you, it's going to make it to the Goodreads Choice Rower nomination. There's no way it doesn't. This is just what happens. Popular authors, no matter how average their books are, will make it to that final round. I mean, I would be shocked if it didn't, unless they actually have a ratings cutoff, because this is a really low rating for Goodreads. But we're going to now pivot to a lesser-known space opera, and that is Under Fortunate Stars. I have 3 reviewers for this. We have Rachel's from Shades of Orange, we have Mindy's Book Journey, and Sound and Fury Book Review. And so these reviews range from 3.5 star to 4.5 star about, and this seems like a fun, fast-paced space opera time. what I gathered from this is we have a group of people, like kind of your found family on a spaceship situation, who are just trying to avoid the chaos and conflicts around them in the galaxy, and then interact with people who come from the future, who are like, you're the key to stopping this conflict, but also we were not expecting any of the events that are happening in this timeline to be happening. Some people were referencing the fun that they had in Light Brigade while reading this, which I really like Light Brigade, so that has me kind of like curious. There was highlighting of banter and just that it's a fun, fast-paced, action-packed time. That is an itch sometimes I really want scratched in my reading experience, just a good page turner, and I think this might be a standalone. So based off all these reviews, if I see it at a bookstore, if I see it at the library, I might check it out. I also think the cover is really cool. So definitely check out those reviews for more information, but I just thought this is like a real under-the-radar, potentially really fun, timey-wimey space opera, found family good time. So just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. This next one I am maybe the most excited to read. This might be the one that I'm most excited about. And I was excited about before this, so it's not like this changed my mind, but it reaffirmed my excitement, and that's the Hacienda. This is historical horror or historical gothic horror, and I'm just really, really excited. I don't have a lot because a lot of the reviewers that I'm going to list didn't really give a lot of the plot descriptions, mainly because it's, gothic horror. But I will say you should check out the reviews from Samwise, Sin's Book Note, and Whimsy Dearest, because they all have different things, but they all really liked it. Like, I think it was 4 stars and up. And I'm so excited. I don't know if I'm going to save it for like spooky season or if I'm going to get myself a copy. I love the cover, and it takes place after the Mexican Revolutionary War. And basically this woman, I think, marries someone. I don't remember her backstory, but she ends up at this house, and this house is haunted. So it's gothic, haunted house vibes. She ends up pairing up with this priest, and they have to figure it out. And apparently that interpersonal relationship is great. And I hear that this is faster paced than your typical gothic horror, based off these reviewers who typically read horror and things like this, but that it wasn't a bad thing, and not to take that to mean that it is fast paced, just faster paced than gothic horror can be. And I don't know, I'm just excited, especially just because everyone really liked how the themes played out, how the characters interacted. Like, that's what I want from any book I read. And then I don't read that much gothic horror. They did say that it will scratch that Mexican gothic itch, and I'm hoping for me personally that it surpasses it, because I think Mexican gothic was good for me, but I didn't like the duo's interpersonal relationship that was like trying to figure out what's happening, if that makes sense. And I think I'm gonna like this priest more, based off some of the things I've heard that I won't tell you guys in case you guys consider that a spoiler. But some of these things that people have told me about this priest in the reviews, I was just like, yes, I am excited to see what's going to happen here. So I know in the fall, Blades and Bodice Rippers, I've never tried to say their book club name. The book club with Leanna, Bethany, the Naughty Librarian, and Mara, they have a book club. And in October, this is their book, okay? So that's really exciting. Maybe I'll try and read it for that. And I just love this cover. And next up, we're going to talk about City of Orange. This is another sci-fi, and I think I'm going to maybe say it gives me vibes of literary sci-fi that nobody's talking about, and it has a lower rating, and maybe that's because this author did YA before this, and maybe the YA audience isn't resonating with maybe this more introspective sci-fi piece, because a lot of what I'm getting from this is that someone wakes up, there's the amnesia trope, they don't remember what's happening, but they wake up in an apocalyptic situation, don't remember who they are, how they got there, and they're traveling along, and I think they have a companion at some point, and there's just a lot of reflection on grief. So I don't know, and I haven't even read The Road, but it was reminding me of what people talk about when they talk about The Road. And I don't have reviews for this because I didn't see on YouTube anyone with reviews, so I was just looking at Goodreads. So you can see more of the reviews on Goodreads in the Goodreads shelf playlist link that I have down below. But it's not fast-paced. I hear the ending was odd and that there were themes of grief. I don't know if I'll pick this one up, but I wanted to highlight it just because I liked the cover, and I don't know, not many people are talking about it, and I was just intrigued. I don't know. That's why it's here. But back to a popular book, and this one was one that I wasn't going to pick up. I was not interested. I don't know why. I just had nothing drawing me to it. But now I want to read it because I want my own opinions, and that is Elektra. And this is the same author who did Ariadne. And again, similar to Ariadne, we are taking the stories of the women in mythology and we are emphasizing them and kind of retelling, emphasizing myths. And this one seems to pull from the Iliad and a whole bunch of other Greek classics. And I'm interested because A, they're characters I don't know as much about, and B, it seems like it is messy and there are some unlikable people in here. So Jessie May was the first person I heard talking about this, so I'll have her wrap up down below. And she does not like Elektra, and I'm curious about that. I think Elektra is the daughter of Agamemnon who, like, sacrifices a kid. And, you know, I think she's, like, a daddy's girl, and it's, like, maybe in a way that's, like, not considerate. I think a lot of people like Cassandra. I don't know. I don't know all the people because I haven't read the book, but there's 3 point of views, and that's the first thing I should probably bring up. Elektra is not the only point of view. There are 3 point of views, 3 women, and we're just following this story. And I think part of the hits and misses for some people is you don't like each point of view equally. That was definitely something that came up. So reviews that I have besides Jessie May was Susie Road Reads, Millie's Bookshelf, and Whimsy Dearest, and Elliot Brooks. Whimsy Dearest did not like this. I think she liked it the least. And both Susan and Millie really liked this for its themes, for the characterization of these women, and one of them is very much into reading the Greek classics and reading Greek retellings. Like, that's, like, her jam, and she really enjoyed this. So, in general, I'm really curious now. And it also explores, like, the cycle of violence, and how do you get out of that cycle? How do you remain in that cycle? I'm curious. One thing that, like, maybe made me not as excited is someone compared it or, you know, said they hadn't liked a retelling this much since Circe, and Circe's not my favorite. I like Circe. I think I have to reread Circe soon for, like, a different book club, but it's a different author, and I haven't read this author's writing style, which basically most people said they enjoyed the writing style. That was one thing that was not in contention, whether the character work landed or didn't for them. Everyone really liked the writing. Now, up next is one where I couldn't find video reviews again, but I was curious, and I went into Goodreads because, for me, this was an anticipated release, and that's the Merciless ones. This is the sequel to the Gilded ones, and I wanted to know, should I be reading this right now? Now, I thought the Deathless series was going to be a duology. I don't know why. I had it in my head. We're in a YA duology trend. That's where we're going. No. This is a trilogy. And once again, the ending is maybe a cliffhanger, so I think I might wait for the 3rd book to come out just so I can maybe reread the Gilded ones and go all the way through, because that's how I consume young adult the best. But based off reviews, I've seen this focus more on gender and sexual identity and less about the us versus them of men versus women, so that'll be interesting to take that thematic shift and maybe have more of that LGBTQ representation up front, because it was definitely teased in the previous book but was not as strong. And, like, some of the, like, I didn't hate this book, but things that held it back for me is that it has some middle book syndrome, and you have young protagonists being young, which was not a problem for me in the last book. I didn't mind the young love. I didn't mind that the love was on the page and that it felt like too insta-lovey. Like, to me, that felt like how I felt when I was 14. So, like, that worked for me. I will say that I'm curious to see how in character the main character is going to be, because I felt that even when she was making decisions that I thought were impulsive, they made sense based off her intelligence and her problem solving, but near the end I'm like, I feel like you aren't responding the way you would be based off the rest of the book, and that we just need to end this book, and that's why things are moving quickly. So I'm curious to see how we deal with the stuff that happens at the end of the Gilded one, so I'm still excited to read this series, but I'm probably going to wait till the 3rd book's out, just because I don't need another cliffhanger in my life. And so I'll just probably reread the Gilded ones and go all the way through. This next one is our romance book on the list, and I was just hearing such rave things that I needed to put on the list. And this is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. And apparently they hit it out of the park, because I have a whole range of reviewers, and I mean, I'm sure if I look, I could find negative things, especially because I think not everyone agrees with who the main character ended up with, because this is, you know, a romance book. But I've got Stephanie, I have her vlog, which is probably the vlog that convinced me maybe I should talk about this book, because she really liked it. I have Jonathan from To Be Blacked in Love, I have Books and Other Nerd Things, and then I have Gunpowder and Fiction and Plot, who are primarily a literary fiction channel, and even they gave it 5 stars. And so it's got literary qualities and it is genre romance. Like, it's both of those things, I believe, and it is messy with a capital M. So it just explores grief, because our main character, I believe her name's Faye, loses the love of her life in a car accident, and this is 4 or 5 years after that time, and she's still not over it. She's still, you know, grieving the love of her life, and I think she's transitioning into maybe not moving on, but moving to a different stage. So she's figuring out the difference for herself between casual sex and sex with a partner she trusts, and gets to end up with this person she's sort of trying out a relationship with, in a location, and then suddenly there is a person who she is definitely not allowed to like, that she is like having chemistry with. So there's a love triangle, and it's a messy love triangle, and I know the specifics of it because it was discussed in, I believe, books and other nerd things and Gunpowder and Fictions review. I don't think it's that much of a spoiler, but I'll be vague here. But it sounds so deliciously messy. And I do think the fact that every reviewer here discussed how much they loved a specific side character, Joy, and how everyone felt distinct is, you know, I mean, I'm not surprised. I read Pet by Akwaeke Emezi and was completely blown away. But the writing style, everyone really enjoyed and appreciated. They thought the character work was so well developed. And then, you know, you just got this really tasteful done thing with the themes of grief and also just exploring the messiness that is being a human being and a human being who acquires feelings for other humans. I feel like I need to try out this book. Maybe this will be my next one because I don't know if you guys know about Akwaeke Emezi, but they have some heavy, heavy books. And this is still going to be heavy, but at least it's like romance. So I don't know. I just, you know, it had good pacing based off of everyone. I'm just excited for it. This next one, I was disappointed in. I have read this next one. This is Seasonal Fears by Shauna McGuire. And I have reviews, Josh's Bookish Voyage, and I have Kayla from Books and Lala. Josh likes it the best of all three of us. I think I'm close to Kayla's review in her wrap-up. But this is not middle game, and it's not middle game in, like, the worst ways for me. So it's in the alchemy world. We learn more about the alchemy world from middle game. So if you really were into that, that'll be great. I actually buddy read this with my friend Jocelyn, who didn't really love middle game, gave it maybe 3.5 stars, and ended up giving Seasonal Fears 4 stars. So I think if you are lukewarm about middle game, Seasonal Fears could be better for you. That is at least one selling point, because you lose the narrative framework of the first book, which makes sense. You can't have the same narrative framework over and over again. It's more linear. But it's a road trip quest story in the guise of a competition story, which it's not really a competition story, but like that's what you think it's going to be when you start reading it. And when I am reading a road trip quest story, I need to care about the people who are in the road trip. It's kind of like going on a road trip in real life. I don't want to go on a road trip with people who bore me. You know, I want to have fun conversations. I want to listen to cool music. I want to tell cool stories. You know, I want to have a good time. Like, I don't even like road trips in real life, but if I'm going to go on a road trip, it better be people that I can keep having continual conversations with. And here, my biggest thing is I'm obsessed with Roger and Dodger. They are everything to me. And I just reread Middle Game, and there's maybe some fan servicey things in Seasonal Fears that were my favorite parts. But Mel and Harry, who are our main characters here, and they're dealing with ascendancy into seasons and a competition associated with that, I am told a lot about their relationship. I don't feel like I'm shown their relationship, or I don't find it believable, or that I'm invested in it, and that was an issue. So if you really loved Middle Game for the character stuff, I think you're going to be let down here. I think even Josh admits that the character work in this is not as good. It's just, that's the stuff I loved about Middle Game. I could have cared less about the alchemy stuff. Like, that was fine. It was great window dressing and a reason why my characters were in whatever situation they were in, but I'm not reading the series for that. I thought I was going to have another duo to fall in love with. And based off Josh's review, it seems like the first book is actually way more personal to Shauna McGuire than the second one. So I'm still going to probably read more in the series, but if you're like me, who loves Middle Game with all your heart, best temper your expectations. Maybe you'll like it more than me. I was bummed. I was truly, truly bummed. But now into happier things, we're going to discuss Siren Queen by Nevo, which is amazing. It's so good. I mean, I don't even love it the best. I think I have so many reviews down below because so many people read this and were like, I need to tell the internet how much I like this book. So we have Bright and Bookish. We have Allie Do Is Read. Her channel name used to be Allie Sears. We have Sin's Book Nook again. We have Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. I have her vlog below. I have Tammy's vlog below. And also, since the vlog, Tammy has said on their channel that they first said 4 stars, but it keeps like lingering, so maybe 4.5, 5 stars. It just like keeps marinating there, which I agree. And I have caffeinated covers. So a whole wide range of reviews. And what you're going to get in this book is vibes. So unlike Book of Night, this book delivers on vibes. And if you do not want those vibes, this book will not work for you. The premise of it is we have a Hollywood star. She is Asian American, reflecting back on how she became a star. And this is in a world, like our world, historical golden age of Hollywood, where you are making deals with monsters, essentially devils, to make it in the industry. It's a very blatant analogy for how much you have to sell your soul when you went into the theater industry back then. Think of Marilyn Monroe, but an Asian American telling her story, and it is dark. I think I put it on my fairy tale recommendations video because it's just like, you feel the monsters, you feel the Brother Grimness of it all. But it also has amazing conversation about not only your own identity in America when you are not white, but also sexual orientation identity. Like, our main character does like other women and, maneuvering that. And also how she takes agency and control of her life in a world that really doesn't want her to. It's really great, and it's very dreamlike. The magic is not explained. You do not go to this book to have the magic explained. Again, #vibes for this book, okay? But I also don't think it's just so out there. Like, some magical realism, I get jarred because I'll be very grounded in my reality, and then something magic happens, and I'm like, but wait, that just came out of nowhere. I feel like here I was always, especially when we were in the setting of the magic, which is usually on a Hollywood set or in the Hollywood downtown area, I always felt like I was in a dreamlike state where things didn't always make sense, but I was also prepared for that. And I thought the writing really worked with that. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was the appropriate length for the vibe that it was. I think it's less than 300 pages, and that cover is amazing. So Siren Queen is great, and for the most part, the people who did not like this book I don't think the project of the book or the vibes of the book were their taste, and I think that's totally valid. So just, if any of this sounds like it might not work for you, it might really not work for you. But if you think it will work for you, could be a great time. And the last one we'll talk about is The Stardust Thief, and this is one I'm cautiously optimistic about. I might try and get one from the library. There's 2 reasons why I'm cautious. But first, the reviews I have for this is, again, bright and bookish. Roger reads, which again does his countdown in different languages, which makes me chuckle every time. Rambling Reader, Jess Owens, and Elliot Brooks. So we have a wide variety down there, and there's a range. So I think Jess Owens liked it the least, and I think gave it, well, I actually don't know the star rating, but she definitely liked it the least in terms of like talking about it in that wrap up. And then there's also like 4.5, 5-star energy in some of these reviews, and it's basically, I don't know if it's a retelling or if it's heavily inspired by the 1001 Nights Arabian Tales. But it's desert fantasy, pulling from those stories. It's definitely got gender-swapped Aladdin vibes. And the 2 reasons why I'm cautious but curious about picking it up is that I heard it's told like oral stories, which is a buzzword for me. Really like that. I really like oral storytelling in my book. It's why I love like Redemption in Indigo. I like unique storytelling frameworks like that. It's why sometimes I do like reflective stories like Akwaeke or Siren Queen, where people are telling me the story of their life. Like, I can really get into that. But at the same time, then people said characters kind of felt distant from them, and it wasn't a very character-driven thing, so I'm like cautious there. Because, see, Seasonal Fears, this is a road trip questy story, adventure story. And if I don't care about the characters, and we're on a quest, this could be a problem. Like, it truly could be a problem, but maybe I will connect with the characters. There's always a chance. Character connection is always subjective. And the second reason why I'm cautious, like this won't stop me from picking it up, but it's definitely like a thing where I'm just like, oh no. And that is, it has a cliffhanger, apparently. Like, even Jess, who was feeling lukewarm, I think around the 50 to 75% mark by the ending, was like, well, now I need the next book. So apparently it has a pretty great cliffhanger, which I don't mind, and I don't mind waiting for the next book. But, like, I don't know, I'll have to be in the right state of mind, because that does mean probably I'll have to reread it before I read the sequel, which I don't mind doing, but I always just test. I can't do that with every book that I pick up and read. So those were some of the things that people highlighted, and people did highlight that there was good friendship and banter on this quest, and that there was a very strong platonic relationship between this guard and this other character, and I am here for that. So I think if the character work works for me, it's going to be a really great fantasy time. And this was also one similar to the space opera I talked about earlier, the Under Fortunate Stars, that isn't very grim or dark, but is still an adult fantasy work. And a lot of people also highlighted that this doesn't have romance in it. So I guess, especially since we were talking about Aladdin, it's probably important to know that, because I feel like if I was told gender-bent Aladdin, I would expect some romance, since that's something I actually really like about that story, or at least the movie version. I actually don't know how much I like the original Aladdin tale outside the context of Disney. I haven't read it in a long time. But those are all the recent releases I wanted to talk about today. Which ones are you interested in? Which ones do you think you're going to pass on? Are you still going to read Book of Night because some book subscription somehow got that in your hands? I don't know. I think I'm probably going to be the most bitter come Goodreads time when Book of Night somehow gets a nomination. Like, truly. There's so many amazing books coming out this year. If anything, that's what this video series has shown me whenever I fill some. It's like, there are so many books that nobody are picking up that are so good. But just because you have a very big popular name, you will easily sell so much without, like, earning it with the quality of your story. I don't know. But that's a topic for a different day. If you want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave me a mermaid for the Siren Queen. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.